Donald Trump has ruined America's reputation so much that politicians in Canada, one of America's biggest allies, are now telling their citizens to just not travel to the United States because it's unsafe. This is Canadian Member of Parliament Charlie Angus, and he has been very vocal about his opposition to Donald Trump. And that was no different during a press conference today, where, as I mentioned, he's telling people in Canada to just not travel to the United States. Just let's take a look at what he had to say.
Over the last 3 months, our nation has faced an unprecedented threat from our nearest neighbor, a threat to our borders, a threat to our sovereignty, our threat to our very right to exist as an independent democratic nation. Donald Trump thought we were going to be an easy mark, that we'd be a pushover. Oh, how wrong he was. And now Canada standing up to him has made Canada the front line in the defense against the MAGA ideology. So no wonder Donald Trump and MAGA are feeling pretty angry at Canada. But what concerns me is the targeting of Canadian citizens who are crossing the border to work or to visit. We have seen too many stories of citizens being pulled out of airport lines and being fingerprinted and deported as though they were criminals. Citizens being kidnapped through illegal detention by ICE. And it's not just Canadians. We see the attack on backpackers, students, doctors, professors. I am here today to say to Canadians to avoid travel to the United States if at all possible, and to call our government to stand up for our Canadian citizens who are being denied their rights by arbitrary detention in the United States today. The Canada must stand up for our citizens and for the rule of law. Because what we're seeing, for example, with cops pulling over the folk duo Cassie and Maggie to harass them for being Canadian, is not the actions of a democratic nation. People whose phones are being seized and searched for any kind of incriminating evidence that they're somehow progressive or woke, that's not the actions of a democratic nation. That is the creep of totalitarianism. That is the creep of fascism, and we need to call that out.
Yeah, I mean, look, he's absolutely right. What we're seeing in the United States is kind of this creep toward authoritarianism, dictatorship, where Donald Trump and his buddies are just randomly detaining people, having even detained some American citizens or people who are in the United States legally and have gone through the proper process. This is no different. That this is happening to Canadians at the border. It's happening to Canadians in mainland United States. It's happening all over the country. And that's why these Canadian politicians are alerting to this. And it's just completely ruined the reputation of the United States, not only through this kind of immigration conversation, but also the fact that Donald Trump is threatening them with tariffs, with trade wars, wanting to bankrupt Canada and even annex them, leading to one of our strongest relationships being completely fractured. This is something that our enemies have been wanting to see, have been dying to see, having the US and our other allies be isolated from one another. And this is a big statement from a member of Canada's government, and it's not made lightly. And it's especially the case since Mark Carney, their new prime minister, their interim prime minister, is kind of taking a similar approach, saying we're not going to get rolled over by Donald Trump. But what this gentleman is talking about here is not hyperbole, it's actually happening. Jasmine Mooney is a Canadian actress, and she was recently detained in the United States for 12 days. Because of Donald Trump's immigration policies. Let me break down the story for you and kind of give you a background on what happened. The former actress turned entrepreneur from British Columbia secured a 3-year U.S. work visa last spring and had been living and working in Los Angeles, her mother told CBC. However, after visiting home in November, Mooney discovered her visa had been revoked when she attempted to re-enter the United States. Mooney said she later returned to the Mexico border with a new job offer and the necessary visa paperwork, but because she had already been flagged, Customs and Border Protection officers denied her entry back into Mexico and detained her instead. Mooney was held in chains and forced to sleep on a mat at the San Luis Detention Center in Arizona after being arrested while attempting to cross the U.S.-Mexico border to renew her documentation. So she was trying to go about this in the legal way through a legal process, and she was arrested and held in chains. After spending 12 days in various facilities across the Southwest, she told CTV News at Vancouver International Airport on Saturday that she is, quote, still processing what happened. I haven't slept in a while and haven't eaten proper food in a a while, so I'm just really going through the motions. Mooney was detained on March 3rd after crossing the border between Mexico and San Diego. So really serious stuff. Detained, sleeping on a mat for 12 days in chains, no access to the outside world, no contact with her family, simply because she was trying to renew her paperwork. That's the crime that Donald Trump and ICE is alleging against her. Her attorney is also slamming Trump and ICE in the way that she was treated. U.S. immigration lawyer James Hacking says Mooney's case is part of a rising number of incidents in the past 10 days where individuals with different immigration statuses, including one with a permanent resident card, have been detained. Hacking says he's been advising non-citizens to avoid leaving the United States as he believes there's a growing risk they may not be allowed to return. This warning also applies to Canadians, which is crazy to say given that this has never been the case before under a modern American presidency. It certainly wasn't the case under Joe Biden, where he respected our allies. Especially applies to Canadians with current or past work visas or other forms of immigration status. He adds, he said, quote, in the 17 years I've been practicing immigration law, I've never heard of a TN visa holder being detained for days on end and not being allowed to enter. I have lots of clients from Canada. I do believe that many Canadians have taken it way too casually with their immigration status over the years. This is the change. This is the difference with Donald Trump in office, where Canadians who are legally here in the United States or Canadians who want to renew their paperwork have to be fearful, have to wonder if they're going to be detained just like this actress, just like Jasmine Mooney, and held in a facility in some random state in the country for 12 days and being forced to sleep on a mat and not being given proper food. This is Donald Trump's America. This was never an issue. This kind of Canadian politicians slamming the United States, this story we're talking about right now, was never an issue under President Biden or Obama or any even Republican presidents before them. And Canadians are really letting Americans know how they feel about Donald Trump, how they feel about these stories we're seeing. Just a month ago, we saw the U.S. national anthem get booed at a Canadian-USA hockey game. And I'm sure you've seen the clip, but I think we should look at it again given this story.
By the dawn's early light, what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight.
Yeah, I mean, that was a lot more boos than cheers. That was overwhelming boos in response to Donald Trump and MAGA. And the final clip I want to show you in connection to this was something that actually took place outside of the White House the other day. It's kind of Canada giving it right back to Donald Trump. The Canadian national anthem was played outside of the White House all day, blasting on multiple speakers. Just take a look. The ultimate trolling of Donald Trump, really giving it back to him, while also Canadian politicians give it back to them in their own way. So there really is a resistance in these countries, not only Canada, but also around the world, to Donald Trump and his policies. His approval rating globally is falling. His trustworthiness around the world is falling, and his ability to bring about peace, at least in Eastern European nations, are falling as well. So the world doesn't like Donald Trump. Our allies certainly don't like Donald Trump, and you can see that here. So anyway, I just wanted to bring this story to your attention. And of course, Charlie Angus slamming Donald Trump. It's worth the watch. I will leave it there. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you being here. Make sure to subscribe down below. It goes an incredibly long way. Also drop a like on the video, comment, let me know what you think about this story and whatnot. And of course, I hope you have an amazing rest of your day.